Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
What's going on, everybody? My name's Mike, and you are watching the Disney Channel. This isn't the Disney Channel. Oh, man. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Welcome to the Thunderdome podcast. That really doesn't roll off the tongue very well, but I don't have a snappier name for it, so that's just what we're going with. I'm going to go ahead and just start things off by looking at the standings here after week 4. We've got 4 teams in first. Vic at 3-1, Casey at 3-1, Al at 3-1, and Emily at 3-1. And then we got a pretty good chunk of 2-2 here. Colin, Abby, Matt Morelli, me, and Liv. And then at 1-3, we have Sam and Ben. And then at 0-4 is Matt. Not going well for Matt. Kind of picking right up where he left off last year. Ate the chip of death, got the first pick, and it started 0-4. So there's some sort of higher power that hates Matt, I think. Now, before I get into fantasy football, I thought I'd just update you guys kind of as we get closer to the wedding here next week. I did end up going to pick up my suit. Like I said, when I told you guys the story about that dick hole that helped me with my suit and whatever. So I got it custom made, picked it up yesterday. Everything fit great. I picked it up, and I didn't have to deal with that fucking pine cone from last time. So got my suit. Everything's great. We're ready to rock for next week. So just to kind of cap off that story in case everybody or anybody was interested. So I'm not going to waste anybody's time here. I will say this is now my second time recording the podcast. I recorded it the first time, found out that it didn't record any of my audio after the hour that I did it. So we're going to try again. I'm going to kind of keep it a little bit more brief this time, kind of just hit the high notes. This is my second go, so I kind of have everything I want to talk about. I'll just talk about it. So without further ado, let's get into the Week 5 preview here. Now, it is me and Abby this week. So we'll start off with Abby. Abby's got Patrick Mahomes against Vegas. And that's fucking as solid as it can be. I think they had him rated as the number 4 QB this week, but I really think he should be like 1 or 2. Vegas gets destroyed in the air. Mahomes is playing in Kansas City. He's had great historic success against Vegas. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't just drop a fucking shit bomb on those guys. Dalvin Cook, he's in a decent matchup against the Bears. He's dealing with a little bit of a shoulder injury, but that Bears rush defense is not very good, and Minnesota's at home, which should help. It's a divisional game. Nobody in the NFC North likes each other, so if he's healthy and he gets the snaps, it's not a bad week for Dalvin Cook. I do like Dameon Pierce a lot. He's really breaking out as just like a stud, as just like the guy in Houston, which I didn't think was going to take very long, and it hasn't. Jacksonville's got a decent defense, but he's just proven to be just such a good option in the backfield. Dameon Pierce is. So I like him in that game. I like his volume, and I think he gets in at least once. That Jacksonville pass defense is a lot better than the rush, so it's a good spot for him. And she's got T. Higgins. T. Higgins has actually had a better start to the year than Ja'Marr Chase has. It's close, but he's been a little bit better. I think he's fantasy wide receiver 12, and Ja'Marr Chase is 14. In his last game, he killed Miami. He had 124 yards and a touchdown. He had a touchdown against Dallas a couple weeks ago. He's gotten over 10 fantasy points in 3 of the last 4 games. That Baltimore defense, that secondary, has been getting just murdered to start the season, and I don't think that changes against this one. Cincinnati's really clicking on offense. Joe Burrow's found his rhythm, and he's found his rhythm with the pass catchers. It's a great spot Baltimore has the 29th ranked pass defense. So I love T. Higgins in that spot there. Let's see here. Mike Evans, same thing. He's in a great spot. Atlanta's got the 28th best pass defense. Brady, he'll be hungry to win after that loss last week to the Chiefs. He gets another home game. I don't know if you guys have heard the whole thing with him. Him and his wife are getting divorced. I don't know how much that's going to affect him on the field. My guess is none at all because he's just a robot. But I love Brady in this one. I love Mike Evans. Love Tampa Bay. This should be a good spot for Mike Evans. Then I'll just go ahead and skip down to that Tampa Bay defense. Same thing. They've got the number 2 rush defense in the league. Atlanta's having troubles throwing the ball right now, and they've been trying to run the ball, but they just lost Cordero Patterson. So they lose the ability to run the ball a little bit, which they were never going to have success with in the first place. And I hate Atlanta in all facets of this game. So I think Tampa Bay, as much as I hate to admit it because I'm playing them, I think this could be very well be like a 15 to 20 point game for them. I think lots of turnovers. I don't think they allow a lot of points. I'm a little worried about that one, just for me. Moving over to my side, love Joe Burrow this week. Like I said, Joe Burrow is clicking with his offense. He started the year horrible, lots of turnovers. The O-line is starting to get him a little bit more time. He hasn't been sacked quite as much in the last few games. And when Joe Burrow has the time, he does good things. And against this horrible Baltimore pass defense, with all the options he's got, I really like Joe Burrow again in this one. I know it's in Baltimore, but it's a primetime game. It's a Sunday Night Football game. So I really do like Joe Burrow in this one. Alvin Kamara, he gets a good spot in this one if he's healthy. Now, he missed the last 2 weeks. He missed the London game on Sunday morning with his lingering rib injury. But he's in a good spot if he can play. Seattle is 30th against the rush. They're one of the worst rush defenses in football. So if Kamara can find a way to play, which it sounds like he's going to, I like it. I like him in this one. I think Mark Ingram's gonna chip away at his touches a little bit, just as they kind of ease him back into health a little bit. But I think it's not a bad matchup for him. Different kind of sides of the story with Debo and Jeff Wilson Jr. I like Debo against a middle of the pack pass defense this week against Carolina. They're okay. Their pass defense is okay. Their rush defense is way better, which is why I don't love Jeff Wilson Jr. Maybe just from a volume sake, he's going to be okay. Like, I don't have any choice. I have to start him, but not a bad option for him. For Debo, I should say. Debo, he cooked the Rams on Monday night. So I like his spot, not so much Jeff Wilson. Marquise Brown, as great as he's been to start the year, and he's my best wide receiver so far, I hate him in this matchup against Philly. Philly have the number one, they have the best pass defense in football right now. And he's questionable with a foot injury, so it's not even sure he's going to play. And even if he does, he's going to draw Darius Slay in Philly, who's debatably the best corner in football right now, or if one of the best corners in football. He's going to get smothered. He's not going to get his 10 catches, I don't think. So it sucks, but I don't love him in that one. Same with Freiermuth. Freiermuth's playing the Bills. I don't like anybody against the Bills normally. And then the Broncos defense was one of the brighter spots I had this week. It was tough to divert away from the Phillies' number one defense that I have, but I just love the Broncos this week, especially since Jonathan Taylor went down with his high ankle sprain. Denver has just been getting murdered against the rush, and now that Indy doesn't have the availability to do that this week, I love the Broncos. And at least as of me recording this now for a fucking second time, it's just the start of the second half, and the Broncos do have 16 points. They have one pick and just 3 points allowed. So going pretty well so far. When you look at the thing as a whole, right now I'm projected 139 to 131. I don't usually usually give myself the edge, and just I don't know. I just because I always think that I'm going to lose each week, and Abby very well could beat me. Her matchups are great with Mahomes, with T. Higgins, with Mike Evans, and that Tampa Bay defense really scares me. So I'm ahead right now, but I wouldn't be shocked if those four really kind of pull through for Abby, and she pulls ahead of me there at the when it comes down to it on Sunday or Monday. Okay, moving on to Matt Morelli and Al. Matt's got Tom Brady going this week, which I think is great. Last week he had 3 passing touchdowns against the Chiefs in that loss, and I think it's a great bounce back spot for him. Atlanta is ranked; they're the 5th worst against the pass, and I think that's really what Tampa Bay is going to do in this one. When you look back at it, like Jameis Winston and Geno Smith both exploited Atlanta. They both threw 2 touchdowns, and you're getting a way better quarterback in Tom Brady this week, who's historically had great success against Atlanta too. So don't need to really go into too much depth. It's Tom Brady against a bad defense. I think it's a good spot. Miles Sanders is in a good spot too. Arizona is ranked 26th against the rush. They are definitely using him more than I thought they would be, and he's off to a great start. I really thought nobody in that running game was going to matter except for Jalen Hurts. But they've really found something in Miles Sanders, and it's kind of keeping it so Jalen Hurts doesn't have to rush the ball so much. So love Miles Sanders in this one against a bad rushing team. I think Philly can get ahead of those guys and get into a position where they need to rush the ball. So get into the red zone, get near the end zone. I like Miles Sanders to get in. Same with A.J. Brown, just kind of keeping with that Philly offense. They're 22nd against the pass, so they're in the bottom quarter there. And A.J. Brown was unlucky not to score a touchdown last week. They just played in a fucking monsoon in Philly. It wasn't a great game script for passing. So I think they get A.J. Brown involved in this one, and I really like him to get in. Same with Jamar Chase. Going back to Cincy, that's a terrible defense they're playing. It's going to be Higgins or Jamar Chase. It's probably going to be both of them. I like Jamar Chase to get in the end zone and to get a bunch of yards in that one. Real quick on Higbee, it's crazy because fucking the Rams throw the ball to Cooper Kupp almost exclusively. They threw to him 19 fucking times against the Niners on Monday, which is absurd. He had 19 targets, 14 of those were catches. Luckily for Matt and for Higbee, when they weren't throwing to Kupp, they were throwing to Higbee. So he didn't get in the end zone, but he got like 18 fantasy points worth of targets and catches because they just don't give a fuck about Allen Robinson, apparently. They don't even look in his direction. So it's great for a Higbee owner like Matt. Dallas is about a middle of the pack defense, but his target share is massive. So just in a PPR alone, I think Higbee's not in a terrible spot. I don't love the Rams in that game, even though they're at home to Dallas, but I think Dallas gives them a game, but I think it's okay for Higbee. And then the only thing I don't really like in Matt's lineup is the Chiefs defense. And I guess that's excuse me. I guess that's totally dependent on how that game goes. Now the Chiefs defense is ranked 29th against the pass, and it just seems like that game is set up for Oakland to be down, or God, not Oakland, I'm an idiot. Vegas to be down big and early, so they're going to have no choice to throw the ball. And the Chiefs have not proven that they can stop the air stuff here so far. And with Devontae Adams and in a script in which Vegas is going to have to throw the ball, don't love the Chiefs defense. I think that game's going to be high scoring, but I mean, who knows? The Chiefs could just completely shut them out too. The Raiders are horrible. So we'll see how that game goes. That's maybe the one spot in Matt's team that I don't love. But again, my opinion means fucking nothing. Moving over to Al, Lamar Jackson. In almost every circumstance, you just have to say, yeah, it's Lamar Jackson. He's gonna be great. He's literally just like the zenith of fucking athleticism. He's fucking insane. But on paper, anyway, he gets a tough one in Cincinnati, or not in Cincinnati, against Cincinnati. They're in Baltimore. But Cincinnati have the sixth best pass defense. They're starting the season great. Their secondaries starting the season great, but they do have the 24th best rush defense. So we all know how talented Lamar Jackson is, especially on the feet. If he goes that route this game, they're going to have trouble stopping him. So, it's going to be a game where he gets between 60 and 100 yards rushing probably because they haven't shown that they can stop the rush in Lamar. So if Lamar Jackson decides to run the ball, I think that's kind of his path to success in this one, more so than throwing the ball. His offensive weapons are just not as great now that Marquise Brown's not there. So we'll see. I think you maybe just temper expectations a little bit for Lamar Jackson. He only got 15 points last week. I think it's closer to that than it is to like his 40 and 50 that we saw earlier. But maybe I think it's more of like a kind of a human being's more amount of points this week for Lamar. Eckler, I don't need to elaborate too much on Eckler. He finally broke out huge. There was a lot of murmurs about him, like, oh, he's regressing and he's not worth what he was drafted at, and it's like that. It was complete. He shut everybody the fuck up last week when he exploded. He gets another great spot this week against an exploitable Cleveland Browns defense, who are ranked 28th against the rush. So this is a game that the Chargers should win easily. I think they're going to utilize Eckler, especially if they get ahead, which they should. I think it's a lot of rushing the ball. I think this whole game on both sides is a lot on the ground because both teams just have really susceptible rush defenses. So I love Eckler in this one. I think he gets in for at least a score. Josh Jacobs is an interesting one. I think it's similar to what I was saying about the Chiefs defense. I think his output is totally dependent on how the game script goes. If they keep it close, it's going to be a good day for Josh Jacobs. We saw last week he just murdered the Broncos on the ground. Just fucking murdered them. And he could do the same against the Chiefs if the game script allows it. The Chiefs have the 27th ranked rush defense. But if they go down early, it's obviously going to phase him out of the game. So, like I said, it's going to completely depend on how the game goes. If they keep it close, great game for Josh Jacobs. If they go down, they're just going to have to huck the ball. Not so great for Josh Jacobs. Tyreek Hill, he's questionable with a quad injury. He was either very limited in practice or didn't play. Obviously, if he plays, he's playing the Jets. So not a whole lot to elaborate on. It's the fucking Jets. It's Tyreek Hill. No real worry there as long as he plays. He's in for a big day, or that's going to suck if he's out. And then Courtland Sutton playing in this game right now. We're not seeing a great version of Russell Wilson at all this year, and not particularly in this game either. As of right now, it's only as of me recording this, it's 6-6, and Russell Wilson has 87 passing yards. Under any normal circumstance, you like Courtland Sutton just based on his volume. He's Russ's go-to guy, and every game he's had 7 or more targets, which is great, if you own him. But against a tougher defense, it's hard to trust the Broncos. So as of right now, it's not going well. But he also, as I'm talking, just caught this bomb. So there you go. And then lastly, I'll just touch on the Niners defense, who were just really, really impressive against the Rams on Monday, and they get another great spot against Carolina and Baker Mayfield. QBR, if you guys know what QBR is, it's quarterback rating. It essentially judges QBs based on like passing, rushing, turnovers, just everything really, and they give you a rating. Baker Mayfield has a QBR of 15.3, and to put that into perspective, Patrick Mahomes has a QBR of 82.3. So Baker Mayfield statistically is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Having the Niners defense against that is fantastic. They haven't been doing anything in the air. It's the same thing as it always has been. It's all trying to get through McCaffrey. So as long as they shut down McCaffrey, which I don't think they're going to have a huge problem doing, because I see Carolina getting into a situation in which they're going to have to throw the ball or try to throw the ball. I think it's a lot of turnovers. I think it's a lot of being shut down on Carolina's side. It's a really good spot for the Niners defense for me. So, or what I think anyway. So this is a close one. It was projected at 132.5 for Al and 131.6 for Matt. This one's going to go either way. Both guys have great matchups. If anything, I'd maybe have to lean Matt just a little bit, just because of Brady's matchup, Jamar Chase, and AJ Brown. I just think they just get a little bit better of the matchups as the wide receivers go. Anyway, I think that's what's going to kind of make the difference. Alrighty, moving right along here to Colin and Sam. Right now the projection is 131.4 to Colin and 129 to Sam, so it's another close one. Colin finally decided to do something about his just fucking woeful QB situation and traded Case to get Trevor Lawrence and sent Michael Pittman going back the other direction. Now, if you guys read my email, which I don't know if you did or not, but I did put it in there, Colin's QB situation. Week 1 had drafted Dak. He got hurt, finished the first game 1 with 4 points. Then he drafted Matt Ryan, who got 1 point. Then picked up Matt Ryan, 1 point. Then picked up Joe Flacco, got 3, and then picked up Mariota, who got like 3 or 4, whatever it was. So Colin's gotten a total of like 13 points out of his QB's total through the first 4 weeks. So he obviously felt like he needed to do something. Got Trevor Lawrence from Case, who is in a good spot against a middle of the pack secondary against Houston. They're ranked 19th in the league, so they're about right in the middle there. But it's been a really surprising start from Jacksonville. Their offense looks good. Trevor Lawrence looks pretty good. Plus, he can get it done in the air. He can run the ball, which is always really good for a fantasy QB. So I think this is by far going to be Colin's best QB week that he's had so far. All he has to do is surpass 4 fucking points, and Trevor Lawrence is going to do that within the first couple drives, probably. Fournette against Atlanta. Now, Fournette has been frustrating from a fantasy standpoint. I can only imagine. I've bet on him a couple of times, and he's been frustrating on that end of things. But it was tough in that game against the Chiefs last week. He couldn't get a whole lot going. He had a touchdown opportunity. They got vultured by their backup, by Rachaad White, punched in, and then he finally got in toward the end of the game. But he gets a decent matchup this week against Atlanta. They're ranked 18th against the rush. And they're at home. I think they, as long as they stick with them, which they will, I think it's not too bad of a spot for Fournette. Saquon versus Green Bay is a tough one, and not just because Colin's rocking the Green Bay defense, which I think under any other circumstance is great, because they're the 11th ranked. They're 11th ranked against the rush. They're not too bad against the pass. It's at Lambeau. It's a good spot for the defense, but Colin's going to play Saquon against them, who I think personally is going to struggle a little bit. I think he's only salvaged by his volume because that's such a bad fucking team. It's a horrible offense. They can't do anything in the air. Daniel Jones rushed for 2 touchdowns last week because he literally can't throw it to his own people. So it's tough. It's tough for Saquon. Colin's going to have to sacrifice points somewhere. I don't think he gets the best of both worlds with Saquon at Green Bay and then Green Bay's defense. I think just his volume alone makes him like an okay option. I understand you can't not play him, but just don't be surprised when you see those two parts of the ball kind of balance out between him and the defense. And then his Detroit Lions guys, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Hawkinson. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown is dealing with his injury still, and it's looking less and less likely that he's going to play. That would be great for Hawkinson, like it was last week. In St. Brown's absence, Hawkinson destroyed, and he finished with almost 41 fantasy points. The only problem is Hawkinson's now dealing with an injury too, although that one seems a little bit less likely to keep him out. So we could very well see another huge game from Hawkinson in St. Brown's absence. I don't think it's going to be 40.9. He gets a better defense this week. The Patriots, they're ranked 7th against the pass. And so he's not going to put up 40 points, but he's definitely going to benefit in the offense if St. Brown's gone. And plus the Lions have gone. They're the highest scoring team in the league. They're statistically the best offense in the league. And just from a betting standpoint, in all 4 games this season, they've gone over the over under, and they've gone over that over under mark by an average of 21 points. So they're just murdering that line every time. So. They're just no matter what, there just to always be points in Detroit Lions games because they can't stop the ball, whether it be rushing or passing, and then they're just very efficient on offense, a lot of scoring. So I like Hawkinson in this game if he plays. I like St. Brown if he plays, but like I said, it's not looking likely that he's going to play. And then lastly, I'll just touch on Chris Olave versus Seattle. He's very clearly becoming the guy in New Orleans. I think he's the clear offensive rookie of the year as long as he doesn't get hurt. His volume's there. He's just a very talented athlete. Seahawks, they're 13th against the pass D, so they're definitely in that top. They're in like the upper tier, but they did just get fucking molested in the air by Detroit. And I feel like this is a game where they're going to have to throw the ball probably, especially with Kamara being hurt, still coming back potentially. And they're definitely exploitable through the air. And the only problem with Olave is that he has Jameis Winston thrown to him, who I'm pretty sure is like blind in one eye and then like color blind in the one working eye. So because he throws like fucking 100 picks a year. So it's kind of boomer bust for Olave, but when Winston finds him, it's always really good fantasy points. So Olave, kind of boomer bust for him against a decent defense. Moving on to Sam, who could really, really use a win after losing 3 straight weeks, 1-3, kind of going south, and his injuries aren't helping either. I don't love his guys on the Vikings with their matchup against the Bears. Now, I know when you see anybody playing the Bears are horrible. They're pretty good on defense still. It's the only reason they have 2 wins. Or 1 win, whatever fuck it is. I don't know. They have a win at least, but their defense is doing all the heavy lifting. The Bears have the 8th best pass defense, and they have allowed the second fewest air yards per game in the league so far. And they've also given up the 5th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. So when you see that, you're not super hopeful for Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. I know Jefferson had a big week last week. I just think this game, they struggle a little bit in this game. It's the division matchup. Kirk Cousins, luckily, thank God this game's not on prime time. Kirk Cousins is 1-8 all time in primetime games. This game's at 11 a.m. on Sunday, so he has a chance. I think Vikings win this game. I don't think they blow out the Bears. I don't think this is a huge game for JJ and Kirk Cousins though. So kind of temper expectations there. I think the same goes for James Conner too. I don't like anybody against Philly. I was saying it with Marquise Brown. I don't love James Conner against Philly. Philly have the 1st best pass rush, the pass defense, and the 5th best rush defense. Bodes poorly for James Conner. Especially in this game where I think Arizona's going to get behind and they're going to have to throw. James Conner's volume early might salvage a little bit, but I can't see a situation in which Arizona, is ever ahead in this game, which doesn't probably bode well for James Conner. What I do like though is James Robinson against Houston. He had a dud last week, but this is a great bounce back spot for him. Houston is nothing to write home about as far as their rush defense goes. And I like Jags all the way in this one. So I think James Robinson's heavily involved. I'd like him to get into the end zone at least once. Devontae Adams too. I think he's going to be in a situation in which the game script favors him and his usage. KC is very beatable in the air. He was kind of corked a little bit by the Broncos defense last week, and Surtain kind of just locked him up. So I think he's in a better spot this week, and he's gonna be active if just kind of by circumstance, just how the game script goes in that one. So I like Devontae Adams, and that KC defense is ranked 23rd in the league, so very very beatable. And I think that game has a lot of points in it. Melvin Gordon versus the Colts. I'm watching it right now. I'll tell you exactly what he has here. He has 6 points. He has 15 yards. It's been a horrible fucking football game. It's 9-6. So it's offensively just horrible. But, maybe not this week, but going forward, Javonte Williams blew his ACL. He's done for the year. Melvin Gordon has fumbled in his last 5 games, which is just embarrassing and horrible. But I think Broncos are going to give him the opportunity to be the guy, because it is Melvin Gordon, and historically he's been a great running back. They're going to give him the opportunity to be the guy to prove that he can carry a team on the ground. But as far as this game goes, this week, it's all that really matters, and he just has not been able to get going at all. They're just, like I said, it's just kind of an offensive dud, which most of these Broncos games have been so far. Then finally, the Dolphins defense is who he's rocking versus the Jets. The Dolphins are the 15th ranked defense. They're not bad. I think the Jets have kind of regressed actually since Zach Wilson came back. It's kind of, you never know. The Jets can be good or they're not going to be. And Miami has struggled a little bit, but they have the playmaking ability to get turnovers, and the Jets do that better than anybody. They just turn the ball over. So, I don't blame Sam for rocking the Dolphins, or just, for anybody for streaming a defense against the Jets. So this is kind of a tough one. Gordon leading a dud doesn't really help. And I guess it's all going to be dependent on injuries, but I think Colin probably on paper has a little bit better matchups. Like I said, I don't like the Minnesota matchups for Sam very much, but he could be salvaged by guys like James Robinson, Devontae Adams. But on Colin's side of things, I like Trevor Lawrence. I like Hawkinson. So I don't know. That's going to be a close one, truly a close one on paper. So don't know which way to give the lean on that one. Moving on to M and Vic. Now, we'll just start with Vic because he's got Russell Wilson going in this game right now. It's 9-6, so obviously Russ is not cooking. He's got 7.82 fantasy points right now, about the end of third quarter. This was going to be a tough one. The Colts have a decent pass defense. They are ranked 9th in the league right now. And Russ and the Broncos haven't exactly been, lighting the world on fire on offense. So Russ is doing, you would hope he'd be doing better because this is a really important game for the Broncos to win, but he just hasn't really been able to get going, which is great for M. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I love his spot this week. He's the number 6 running back in the league right now. He's been getting a ton of usage, ton of touchdowns. He definitely gets in against Vegas easily. So I don't need to say too much more about that one. I love CEH in this one. Cooper Kupp, he hasn't been finding the end zone as much, but his target share is just fucking stupid. Like 19 targets, like 14 catches on 19 targets last week or on Monday is absurd. He gets an equally tough defense, if not maybe a slightly tougher defense in Dallas this week. Trayvon Diggs is going to be on him probably. I don't know how much that's going to hinder his output. Probably not a whole lot. I don't think he's not going to have 19 targets, 14 catches in this one. I just can't see that being the case. I don't know how that happened the first time. Like after 19 attempts at throwing at one guy, how do you not catch on, right, as a defense? I think Dallas has been solid on defense. I think they give him a little bit tougher time, but it's Cooper Kupp. I think anywhere between 15 and 25 fantasy points is his floor, which is ridiculous. So I think he's going to get somewhere 15, 20 points just on his target share alone. Mark Andrews should be in for a better spot than he was last week. He just played Buffalo. Buffalo is just a total shutdown defense, really. He was limited to 15 total yards. He gets a better matchup in this one, despite Cincinnati being, I think what I said, they were the sixth best. Yeah, they're the sixth best pass defense. But I think they're going to be so focused on keeping Lamar dealt with, especially if he starts to run, that Mark Andrews is going to kind of drift out into open areas, and they're going to find him more than they did against Buffalo. So I think temper expectations a little bit on Mark Andrews. I don't think he's going to explode like he had been in the last few weeks. He'd been getting fucking crazy points. He'd been 27 one week, 28 the following week. I don't think it's that much. I think it's closer to like 10, between 10 and 15, maybe closer to 10-point mark on Mark Andrews. Jamal Williams has been fantastic for Detroit in the absence of DeAndre Swift. Last game he had almost 29 fantasy points. The game before that he had 25. I think Swift's still going to be out this week as far as I understand, so could be very similar. Like I said, the Lions are just in that high-flying, high-power, top-scoring offense, and Swift is such a huge part of that. And with him being gone, Jamal Williams has now taken that role. Great pass catcher, great rusher. It's just a points parade in Detroit, so I really like Jamal Williams, even though New England does have a much tougher defense than Seattle did last week. And then finally, just that Buffalo defense. It's fucking Buffalo. Pittsburgh is such a bad offense, and they can be rushed on. Buffalo can be, but Najee Harris has not been that explosive so far this year. He'll probably be a little bit better. That's the only part where Buffalo's defense just isn't that great. But I don't think Pittsburgh's going to get anything done in the air. They might be going with Pickett, who's facing the best defense in football, or debatably at least a top 2 defense in football in Buffalo. So Buffalo's in for a really good week. Could be that 15, 20 points that we've seen them get before. So it's not a bad spot really for Vic. He's got some good matchups in there. But Ems has her share of some decent matchups too. Josh Allen against Pittsburgh. They're going to do work. They kind of got a scare against Baltimore last week, but came back and smacked them around in the second half. They're going to exploit Pittsburgh the same. That game's in Buffalo. It's their first game in Buffalo since week 1. They're going to be fired up. Fans are going to be fired up. Pittsburgh offense, horrible. I love Josh Allen in that one. Mixon's going to be a little bit tougher one. He hasn't really been super great to start the year. That's just such a pass. It's kind of evolved in such a pass first offense. But if they get down into the red zone, they're obviously going to give Mixon the looks. So I think it's going to be kind of touchdown dependent on his week. But since Baltimore is such an exploitable secondary, they're definitely going to be looking to pass. But I think Mixon gets his fair share. Like I said, if they can get the ball down into the red zone, which I think they're absolutely going to do against Baltimore, Mixon will definitely be getting the goal line stuff, the red zone stuff. He's just so good in the red zone. But touchdown dependent for Mixon. Mike Williams, another one. He's benefiting so much with Keenan Allen being hurt, and with Herbert kind of slowly recovering to his injury. That's another really pass heavy offense. I love Mike Williams. Cleveland's defense, very, very beatable. They have the 24th ranked pass defense. So yeah, Mike Williams is just in such a good spot, and there's a chance that Keenan Allen's going to come back, but I don't think that's really going to affect the target share. I think if anything, they're going to kind of just ease Keenan Allen back into it. They're not going to give him the heavy looks. I think most of the target share goes to Mike Williams. He's in a really good spot against a very beatable Cleveland team. They should smack those guys around. Dallas Goddard is in a good spot against Arizona. Arizona's a very beatable pass defense. Let me see here. They are ranked 16, so yeah, they're like in the upper middle of the pack. Not bad, but Goddard's playing a great role. And that's such a high-powered offense right now too. They're the only undefeated team in the league. So Goddard's in a really good spot. And then the Carolina defense, that's a tough one. They're ranked 20th against the pass. What worries me about that is they were great last week. They're getting a better team this week in a team in San Fran that's definitely finding their rhythm on offense. Garoppolo is looking a lot better the more and more that he gets into the season. Deebo Samuel is looking really good. He was great against the Rams. They are in a little bit tougher spot against San Francisco. I don't think this game is. I don't think this like a booming amount of points. I don't think it's like a powder keg, of points. I think it's fairly low scoring, but I would maybe just keep your expectations a little bit lower for the Carolina defense this week. That's just my opinion, but I'm wrong all the fucking time. I was wrong a lot last week on stuff too. So when you look at it, Vic's projected 130 to 123. That's just because Russell Wilson's playing right now. I probably have to give the lean. Man, this is a close one, but I'm probably going to have to give the lean to Vic just a little bit. I think what it's projected out now is about right. The Cooper Kupp factor just plays such a huge role. Mark Andrews is in a little bit better spot, and just that Buffalo defense I think is just going to put up 20 points. But on the other side, Josh Allen, I think is going to have a humongous game. So I think it's going to come down to those two. But like I said, I think I just on the matchups alone, I think I'd have to just give Vic just the slight edge. Sorry, Em, but that's just kind of how I'm feeling about that. Okay, so moving on now to Casey and Matt Glassmeyer. Now this is the only game of the week that's projected to be a blowout. Casey projected at 138, Matt projected at 113. And you're about to see why that is. Jalen Hurts playing Arizona. Love that spot for him. Arizona, very, very beatable. Like I said, they're a middle of the pack pass defense, but they've so far been kind of getting worked in the air. And their rush defense is not good at all. They're very beatable on the rush, and Jalen Hurts can do both of those things, So I expect Jalen Hurts. He's not going to be playing in an absolute monsoon in Philly. They're going to be in decent weather in Arizona. It's a really good spot for Philly and to go 5-0. So I love Jalen Hurts in that way. He's just such a dual threat. The guy's fucking incredible. So love Jalen Hurts. Najee Harris is about the only guy on Pittsburgh I would want to have right now, especially against Buffalo. That's about the only way that people can exploit Buffalo right now is on the ground. Now, Najee Harris has yet to be super explosive. He's ranked 26th in the league, and there's no way this game allows for him to get the ball a lot. Pittsburgh's going to get behind. They're going to have to throw, which is a horrifying thought against that defense. Unfortunately, I see Najee Harris kind of getting phased out of this one. Who I don't see that happening to is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, he's the number one running back in fantasy right now. The Chargers have a very, very beatable rush defense. In fact, they have the 29th ranked defense against the rush. So I see Nick Chubb just chewing them up in the middle as long as this game stays close, which it could. That's a tough one. That's going to be all situational. But Nick Chubb's going to be involved like the whole game, whether they're down 2 touchdowns or not. Like that's just their path to success is going to be running the ball. They're going to do everything they can to keep it close. I see a lot of running in this game because both teams just have very beatable rush defenses. But Nick Chubb gets in at least one time, I think. They're going to lean on him a lot. He's just a fucking stud right now. Diggs is in for just a huge game. Pittsburgh is 26th against the pass, which bodes very poorly for them against the best offense in football, pretty much, in Buffalo. Josh Allen's going to have a field day. It's time for Diggs to get back in the end zone. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 2, where he scored 3 times against Tennessee. He's been shut out twice against Miami and then Baltimore. This is the get right game, get back on track game for Stephon Diggs. Absolutely love him. Alrighty, let's see here. Jalen Waddle against the Jets. It's going to be really good for him, especially if Tyreek Hill is dealing with some sort of injury or ends up maybe not even playing. Even if Tyreek Hill plays, that's such a dynamic offense. Maybe drop down a little bit with Tua being hurt and bringing in Teddy Bridgewater, but you still love either of those guys. I think, and they're playing the Jets. It's the fucking Jets. So Waddle's in a really good spot. I don't think you have to worry too much about one or either him or Tyreek getting the share. It looks like it's a pretty split offense between both those guys. So do like that one. Michael Pittman playing at the flex right now. He has gotten better as the game went on. He had 0 points through like the first quarter and a half, but he's got 4 catches for 55 yards for 9.5 points. It was always going to be a tough one. He was always going to draw Surtain, who's just been insane at his position, not allowing any receptions. He locked down Devontae Adams last week. So working out okay for Pittman, at least at the flex points, 9.5. If he ends with somewhere around there, that's not too bad, but that was always going to be a toughie. And then the Jacksonville defense, they've been surprisingly very good. That's been one of the bigger surprises of the year, in my opinion, is how decent that Jacksonville defense has been lately. They're in a pretty good spot against Houston. They're nothing special. Houston's got nothing going for them in the air. They got Dameon Pierce on the ground, which is easily their biggest threat. They got Brandon Cooks, but Jacksonville's been good enough where they should get the job done against Houston without letting up too many points. They're in Jacksonville too, which helps. So I think it's a fine streaming option against Houston. Okay, so moving on to Matt. So Aaron Rodgers gets the Giants this week. The Giants definitely have a very beatable pass defense. They're ranked 18th. And it's at Lambeau. And, as underwhelming as Aaron Rodgers has been, he's been decent the last 3 games. He's gotten 20 points in each of his last 3 games, and I think it's going to be very similar, if not more. Right? This could be like the breakout game for Aaron Rodgers. That Giants defense just isn't good. It's the best part of that team. Their offense is horrible, but Aaron Rodgers is in a pretty good spot. I wouldn't be worried about that. But it is in London, so that whole thing about it being in Lambeau, fucking ignore that. I just completely forgot that game was in London. So go back to the whole Colin thing about, Packers defense at Lambeau, all that bullshit. Yeah, forget I said any of that. I forgot that game is in London. But, Green Bay, it's still Green Bay against the Giants, no matter where you play. They could be played in someone's fucking backyard. You like Aaron Rodgers against the Giants. Same with Aaron Jones. Same thing. Aaron Jones. Giants have let's see. It's a very beatable rush defense. Let me see exactly what it is. 23rd. They're ranked 23 in the league. Very, very beatable. I like Aaron Rodgers, like Aaron Jones to get in the end zone. Those are the 2 good matchups there. His really, really not good matchup is Algier against Atlanta. Now, Matt had to make the switch, had to go pick up Algier off the waiver wire because he lost Cordero Patterson to the IR. But he gets a rookie running back against the number 2 rush defense in the league, Tampa Bay, in Tampa Bay. I don't see any route for success in that one at all. Atlanta is never going to be in a situation in which they're going to get to run the ball. They're going to be down. I love everything about Tampa Bay in that game and nothing about Atlanta. So it's kind of a no choice, but he has to play him pretty much in that one. But it's not a good spot for Algier at all. But Christian Kirk's in a great spot. Going back to that Jacksonville offense, which has been very good. And Christian Kirk has been by far like the best guy in Jacksonville. He's Trevor Lawrence's number 1. He's gotten 19, 25, and 19 in 3 of the 4 games. Obviously, he was always going to struggle in Philly last week in the middle of that rainstorm, but gets a much better matchup this week. Should be better conditions in Jacksonville. Christian Kirk's in a really good spot. I love him this week. Keenan Allen is sitting at his flex currently. It's still unclear if he's going to play. Like I said earlier when going over Abby's matchup, I just don't love Keenan Allen maybe right now just because he's coming off the injury. I don't think he's going to be getting a massive amount of the target share. I think they're going to kind of just ease him in. And that's if it even plays, But if he does play, there's always the shot at that touchdown. I think it's touchdown or bust for him in the flex. Cleveland have the 24th best pass defense, very beatable. So yeah, not bad there. And honestly, and with the Baltimore defense too, I don't love it. It's against Cincinnati. Baltimore currently have the 29th ranked pass defense against Burrow and the gang, who are finding their groove on offense, and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Boyd. Any three of those guys any or all three of those guys are going to catch a lot of passes in that game. Baltimore's pass defense has been horrible. I think it's a shootout. It's Sunday night. I don't love that spot for Baltimore's defense. So, looking at it, there's a couple decent matchups and a couple really bad ones in my eyes. So I can see why this is so heavily favored towards KC, the 137 to 113. KC's been steamrolling everybody and putting up the most points. Fell back to earth last week, but I think I think this is the get back on track week for Case. Just his matchups are just way better, unfortunately, for Matt. So Matt, I think, is going to get the bum owie in this one. God, he might drop to 0-5. That's brutal. So, but that's just what I think. But Casey was also projected to win by 40 last week too, and look what happened. He lost to Liv. So, who knows? And lastly, but not leastly, is Liv and Ben. Now, this is projected 133.2 to 131.5. So back to being, a close matchup. And we'll go ahead and start with Liv here. Justin Herbert against Cleveland. I've spent some time talking about that Chargers offense. Very good. Herbert is slowly but surely getting more healthy from his rib injury. He just looks better and better each week. Last week, he was very good, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 27 points against Houston. He gets just an equally bad pass defense, if not a worse pass defense in Cleveland. So, yeah, it's a great spot for Herbert, who's just looking better, feeling better. You got to play him. I know last week Jared Goff on our bench got 41 points, but Herbert's just obviously just always the safe play in that offense that just seems pass first and pass heavy. Derrick Henry gets, it's Derrick Henry. He's found his form. He's been back to the normal beast that is Derrick Henry, but he gets a tough matchup in this one with Washington, who surprisingly, they are the 3rd ranked rush defense in the league right now. That doesn't mean Derrick Henry's not going to score. I think he does. I think this game is very low scoring, and Tennessee might even lose. In total honesty, I think Tennessee could lose. It's in Washington. Tennessee's pass defense is not good. It's actually the 2nd worst in the league. So there could be a situation in which Derrick Henry gets phased out a little bit if Tennessee's not careful, but at least early, Derrick Henry's going to get the volume. He could get in if they get in the red zone. They're going to lean on him, get in the red zone. But this is going to be one where you're going to have to simmer on your hope for him to have a big week this week, I think, anyway. CeeDee Lamb in Dallas. Now, I think Dallas is going to win this game in LA. And I just, because the Rams defense has just been bad. It's been really bad. God, they have the 30th ranked pass defense, and we very much saw that on Monday when they played the Niners, and Debo ran all over them, and Ayuk caught some good passes. And Dallas have the offensive weapons. They've got CeeDee Lamb. They have options. I think Schultz is back. And I see a situation in which Lamb is very busy in this one because Jalen Ramsey is literally the most overrated fucking player in the NFL. I think he talks shit all the time. He talks himself up. He talks such a huge game. And then whenever he faces somebody good, he gets fucking roasted. That very well could happen in this with CeeDee Lamb. Cooper Rush has been good, and that Dallas offense has been pretty good. At least in the past, it's been good. So it's not unreasonable to think CeeDee Lamb has a good game on Sunday afternoon. Metcalf is kind of the same way. I think the Seattle's path to victory in that game is very clearly going to be in the pass. New Orleans has a very stout rush defense. They're top 5 or 6, I believe. They are 6th in the league. So they're going to throw the ball, and you got to throw the ball to DK Metcalf, who's just a specimen of the human body. He's fucking insane. He's definitely finding his groove here lately. He's in the last 2 games, he's gotten 23.9 and 17.4. So he's definitely getting the rapport with Geno Smith. So I think this game, I don't know the outcome. It could be low scoring, but they're going to be throwing to DK Metcalf a lot in this one. And then let's see here. Gerald Everett at the tight end position. I like him. I know he was dealing with a little bit of an injury, but if he plays, it's the Chargers offense against a bad defense. Everett he's been, I think, number 2 in targets after Mike Williams. So they love him at the position. They're getting him a lot of passes. I think Everett's a great spot here as well. And then we'll go down to the Tennessee defense. Kind of going back to what I was saying with Derrick Henry, I'm not sure I love Tennessee in this spot. They have the 31st ranked pass defense. And it's in Washington, which just worries me a little bit. I think Tennessee is incredibly overrated. I think they lose this game, but I understand that, it's not a great streaming week for defenses, but the fantasy guys like Tennessee in this game for some reason. I don't quite understand, but it might work out for Liv. That game could be a dud too, and Washington sucks. Tennessee's not great. That could have very, very few points in it too, but if it does, then it's good for Liv. So pretty good spot for Liv there. Now Ben gets some toughies, and it starts with we'll start with Christian McCaffrey because I just said it, against San Francisco. Now, San Francisco has the 7th best rush defense, and this seems like a game in which Carolina's going to have to throw the ball, probably, and it's so bad. Baker Mayfield's just the fucking worst. Their pass offense is so bad. But obviously they're going to lean on Christian McCaffrey, and any game he's played, no matter against what defense, just his volume, especially in a PPR, makes him valuable. Granted, he only has 1 touchdown. He scored it in week 1 against Cleveland, but he's had 15, 18, 15, and 25. And those last 3, he's had no touchdowns, but he's still, just the volume alone makes him so valuable in a PPR. You can never be upset with Christian McCaffrey against anybody. But I don't think he gets into the end zone in this one, and I think he gets shut down just a little bit, but I still think he gets in that 12, 15 fantasy point range. Going back to his QB, Kyler Murray, I hate his spot in this one. He's playing Philly, number 1 pass defense in football right now. It's just not a great spot for Kyler Murray, who has struggled a little bit. He's been better. He was better last week. I mean, against Carolina, it's not super impressive because Carolina sucks, but he did throw for 2 touchdowns, 207 yards. He's been okay, but Philly, that's going to be a real test for him against Philly. But I think Philly gets ahead early, and he's going to have to throw the ball. So I think that the chances for points are there, obviously, but I think you got to just maybe temper expectations on Kyler Murray a little bit. I don't love him this week. Neither do I like DJ Moore. Same reason. Horrible Carolina offense. He has the worst fucking quarterback ever throwing to him. It's good San Francisco defense that shut down the Rams minus Cooper Kupp. But that's Cooper Kupp. DJ Moore is a whole different story. Not a good spot for DJ Moore. Good spot for Brandon Cooks, though. That game could be competitive. Houston's going to have to throw. Brandon Cooks is very much the guy in that offense. He's still very much worthy of like a fantasy spot. He had 57 yards and a touchdown against the Chargers last week. I think he could get into the end zone. I think he's going to have to get into the end zone for it to be a decent fantasy day, but I think it's very possible. I don't dislike Cooks in that one at all. I absolutely love Kelsey though. Kansas City's going to just throw the ball a ton in that game, I think, and they're not going to be stopped. I think Kelsey's going to be like 75 plus yards and a touchdown. It should be a huge game for him. Vegas's pass defense is ranked 21st in the league, and they're in Kansas City, who's historically had great games against the Raiders and high scoring games against the Raiders. So it's a good spot for Kelsey for sure. Good spot for Lockett. Same kind of thing with DK Metcalf. I think Lockett is in a good spot in a game that should have some passing. And then the Dallas defense. I talked about it. I like Dallas this week. If they can figure out how to get Cooper Kupp under control, which, like I said, I don't think he's going to have 19 targets for 14 catches for 19 targets in this one. Trayvon Diggs is probably going to be on him. And I think they keep him under control a little bit, and that's all you have to do to beat the Rams is just keep Cooper Kupp at bay, which I think they're going to do. And like I said, I think Dallas is going to beat the Rams in this one. So it's a good spot for Dallas. And Matt Stafford has been terrible to start the year. The Rams offense has not looked very good. I know it's in LA, which helps them a little bit, but I do think Dallas is a good streaming choice this week. So it's a really close one. It is a really close one. Unfortunately, I think, or I should say unfortunately for Ben, I think the little nudge toward Liv in the projection is fair. I think her matchups are just a little bit better. I think Herbert, Lamb, Metcalf, Everett are just a little bit better than Kyler Murray, DJ Moore. I think McCaffrey and Henry are about even, but then you can have a huge game out of Kelsey, which I think is very possible too. So it's rightfully close, but I think I just have to give the edge to Liv just a little bit. Okay, so I think that is about it. For next week, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get anything out on Tuesday. For sure not Thursday because we're going to be out there. I'm not going to be able to get an email or obviously the pod out next week. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get anything out on Tuesday. I'm tempted to maybe do a pod on Tuesday because I'm not leaving until Wednesday, but I do have some shit to get sorted and get together on Tuesday. So I'm not going to promise anything, but I'll see if maybe getting something out next Tuesday, but for sure nothing on Thursday. And then I'll try to make it up that following week. I'll definitely get the two, I'll get the two things out that following week. And then I might do just like a kind of a fuck around email on like Wednesday, just a little something extra. So anyway, I think that'll about do it. So you know what? I think, I'll just see you guys. I'm going to see you when I see you. I'm going to see a lot of you guys in Vegas, and we're going to have some fun. And luckily there's Thursday Night Football going on in Vegas when we're out there, and we can kind of shit talk each other and have some fun there. So anyway, I'm going to go edit this, and I pray to the mighty Lord of whatever, of podcasts and fucking technology, that it actually recorded the audio this time, so I don't have to start over again. I'm going to edit this bad boy, watch the end of this shithole Bronco game, and try to pump this thing out to you guys. So you take care. We'll see ya probably in Vegas or when I see you next, and we'll go from there.